Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be doing something very exciting, which is sharing with you my 12-week goals. So all of the goals that I want to achieve in the next 12 weeks in all of the different areas of my life. If you are new here, my name is Ciara. I'm a third-year PhD student in Dublin, Ireland, studying computer science. And on this channel I like to talk about all things related to being productive while being a PhD student, as well as somebody who runs quite a substantial business with 10 employees, as well as somebody who runs a personal brand in their spare time. So I think when I talk about productivity, it's talking about how to manage all of these different things. So if you like that type of content, if you're the kind of person who's interested in being more productive and starting side hustles and that kind of thing, then do be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you never miss a video. In the last video, I shared with you how I sort of do my 12-week year process in terms of the system and the actual way I lay out all of the different things. So what projects and actions I need to work on, the habits, how to track everything. So this video, I'm not going to be explaining the 12-week year process, so I do recommend checking out that video or one of my previous videos where I go through what the 12-week year is and how the 12-week goal setting process works. I'll have those videos linked down below for you, but today I'm just going to be sharing what my actual 12-week goals are and the different projects and actions and habits that I'm going to be implementing based on that. So I'm hoping this video will help me stay accountable to my goals, and if you want to stay accountable to whatever goals you have set, I recommend that you will comment those down below, what your goals are and what the sort of timeline is if you're not doing 12 weeks. So let's just talk about overall what I'm trying to get done in these 12 weeks. I think in this time of the year, people often set these really big goals for themselves, and they don't really think about how trying to achieve something like that is going to impact all of the other areas in their life. And as somebody who's had a couple of years experience with this, I now know that what I actually really need to be doing this first quarter of the year is putting together really good processes for my work and my life so that I can build from there. Because last year, a number of things in both my personal life and my professional life sort of fell through the cracks as I was working on different things, and I felt that I wasn't really doing a good job. It felt like I was sort of not really giving my all to both sides. So what I'm focused on in general, and you'll see that throughout each goal this quarter, is really putting together a good process, a good system, a good foundation that I can then build from. And hopefully later on in the year, we'll see that I'll have, I suppose, more ambitious goals with each of these areas so that the original foundational work will have been worthwhile. Another thing to mention with my goal setting, something that I've sort of stopped doing, is setting goals based on output. So for example, if I have a goal around my YouTube channel, I'm no longer trying to set goals that are like get to 50,000 subscribers. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm setting input-based goals, so being consistent, and I'm trying to track each week what my actual outcome is based on the input that I've put in. And so at the end of the 12-week process, I want to really look at what I actually achieved, because there might be other things that I achieved that I didn't have in my goal that are actually so much more important just from doing the input part of the goal. I hope that makes sense. So I want to start off by talking about my PhD and career. And I suppose this first quarter of the year, we have this new data set, and I've been working on it for a little bit of a while already. But what I'm going to be doing for this quarter is going to be trying to do a lot of the data analysis work. And to be honest, I know this work is really important and really useful, but it's definitely one that I find it much harder to get motivated to do. But I know that it's going to provide a really good foundation for the rest of my work to come. I think each of my thesis chapters are going to have a substantial data analysis section as more of an introduction to the problem area based on the data set that we have, before moving on to the machine learning modeling and all of that, which is sort of the more fun stuff that I want to do, because that will lead to more sort of conference publications, and I've yet to go to a conference. I know that if I can just knuckle down and get this data analysis work done, I'll get to move on and do more fun work. So this first term of the year, I'm focused on the data analysis work and I want to have all of that done. I also am focused on trying to improve my general programming. At the moment, I am somewhat self-taught. I've done a lot of computer science classes, but a lot of what I've learned and what I do in my general programming is self-taught, and a lot of what I do is not really right in terms of programming, good programming practices and style. So I want to learn how to style my code properly and be able to sort of turn things that I've written into reusable pieces of code, and that will serve as another output of my PhD, will be that code that I create. So for this term, I want to do a course that will teach me all of that. So this is my first project, which is going to start off by finding courses that I need to do. And then once I've found the courses that I want to do, there'll be the weekly action of actually spending time working on that each week, cleaning up my code. So I've added some time into my weekly schedule to actually spend time learning about good programming and also cleaning up my code. I've also added in some admin time just so that I'm staying on top of general administrative work as part of my PhD, because I found that last year I was really bad for that. And then in terms of things to track, I have pages of thesis written as the sort of metric for this work, as well as key information, like key, I suppose, research findings. A sort of list of those as well will be my outputs. So I'm going to be looking at those each week, reflecting on the week. How many pages did I write? How many results did I find? The other thing that I'm tracking metric wise will be that number of hours spent working deeply. And that's going to be a really important metric for seeing how much effort am I really putting in to getting this area of data analysis done. If I'm finding that I'm constantly sort of switching off in the deep work sessions and not really filling out the full 4 hours a day, that's going to be sort of an indicator that I'm not going to probably get what I want to get done this quarter in terms of my PhD work. The next area that I'm going to talk about is my business that I run. So if you don't know, I run a speech and drama school based in Dublin, and we've been expanding quite rapidly in the last 2 years, and we're sort of, I suppose, getting to the point where we're expanding beyond at least my means in terms of keeping on top of everything. So there is definitely huge opportunity this term to expand further and go into new locations. But I've decided that this term I really just want to make sure that we have really good processes in place for just ensuring that the parents and the current students are all happy, and making sure that we achieve the outcomes that we've set for the term in terms of performances, exams, competitions, and just making sure that we're actually getting good results and making sure that the classes that we have are already of a high quality before trying to add any new ones to our current repertoire. We also have a number of sort of, I suppose, process improvements to be done about just sort of building a better database for the teachers to use and for me to use. So for example, having some sort of teachers putting in the student feedback somewhere that everyone can see. So if somebody's covering for someone, they can see what needs to be done that week and which students need help with what. And so that I can see if any students are having particular problems, so that if a parent wants to talk to me about it, I'll have a good overview of that. So I need to have a good few projects related to the business. First of all, is just getting this term sorted, and there's a number of different tasks that I won't bore you with on that. But again, I need to do all of this. I need to make sure all of this is fine before trying to expand further. We also have like a number of online courses we want to do, but again, we can't do those sort of fun projects until all of the sort of nitty-gritty is fixed. Metrics for the school that I'm going to be looking at is going to be profit, which at the moment is none, and because we want to next term have a full manager to take away some of my load, we need to have some profit to be able to actually pay that person. Number of students, exam results, competition feedback, parent feedback, and then number of performances that were successful in the term. Next area to talk about is my brand, PhD in Productivity, which includes this YouTube channel. It includes my Instagram, PhD in Productivity, a mailing list, as well as, I suppose, my Notion templates as the paid product at the moment, and possibly future stuff if you're watching this sometime in the future. So my main sort of focus this quarter for the PhD in Productivity brand is consistency and batching my content properly. So I have a couple of weekly habits, which will be to batch my YouTube content on a Sunday, film 2 videos, batch my Instagram content on a Sunday, so all my reels, all my static posts. Other weekly tasks will be editing and uploading those videos, as well as uploading those posts and also uploading stories regularly on Instagram. So that's sort of one half of what I want to work on. The other is around sponsorships and building a good process for how I manage sponsorships. So I need to make some sort of rate card which explains my channel, my stats, my fees and everything like that, and then sort of put together some process for what is the back and forth in terms of how long does it take to create that, like to script that video for the sponsor, to actually create the video and send them a draft and get that back and then be able to publish it, and the actual process for invoicing these sponsors as well. So that's one of the projects that I have, is all around the invoicing and rate card. And weekly habits will also be reaching out to sponsors, because I've only just been receiving sponsors for emails and not actually sending any myself. Monthly habits that I have for the brand will just be planning YouTube videos and planning sponsorships, and that will sort of go into my monthly planning section. Key metrics I'm going to be looking at in this area will be YouTube subscribers, YouTube views, Instagram followers, Instagram Reels average views. I'll also be looking at feed post average views as well, AdSense revenue, sponsorship revenue, and Notion template sales. So those are going to be the key elements for this quarter. Another thing around that I do want to work on is having the Notion template sales starting to become more of a regular amount. So knowing how much I'm going to earn week on week. And I think part of that will just be ensuring that I'm making content around the Notion template as I develop it. The next area of life that I'm going to be looking at is finances. This is not a huge category for me this term. I only have one main goal, which will be to start budgeting and creating just sort of savings goals. So my main project is just to create a budget, which I have had a budget in the past, but my finances have been sort of changing. And I think one particular issue that I've been having is that I have money coming in from different areas on different dates. And so oftentimes when my YouTube revenue comes in, I just spend it. And same way, I just withdraw from my PayPal, which has the Notion template sales, sort of randomly. And then I'll just spend that as well. So I also want to start just putting sort of a pay date for the YouTube work that's around the same date as my other pay, so that I can just start fresh on that date. I also need to save for braces, so I just need to include that into my budget project. And then in terms of monthly habits, because I don't actually have any weekly habits for this particular section, monthly I'll just have to budget and save and reflect on the previous month. The metrics I'm going to be looking at will be savings and spending. So am I going overspending on that? The next area of life is physical environment. So that's your overall space and surroundings. And we have a number of sort of projects that we need to work on around the house to just make it more functional. So one project that we have is definitely working on this office and creating more of a filming space. But before that, we really just need to make the other areas of the house functional. So there's a few areas in particular, and if you're interested, I can do a whole video on this, because I have sort of been filming a little bit of content about it myself throughout the process. There's a few areas of our house that have just not been working for us, and so we need to buy a load of things to fix that, and maybe repurpose some of our current furniture either from here or from our own family homes that isn't wanted, to just make sure that we're not having constant build-ups of different things, or like looking in the presses and not knowing where things are. So the tasks are all just things that we need to get, and weekly habits, we just have chores and decluttering. And in terms of metrics, it's really hard to say, but I think overall space satisfaction and like how long I think the cleaning process takes could be interesting to look at, because if we've reorganized the space to be a lot tidier, it shouldn't take as long to like tidy and clean up. In terms of romance and relationships, there's not a huge amount here either. So two main areas we want to work on. One is that we need to combine our finances. So we are going to be creating a joint account so that we can basically just use for any spending that is for the two of us. So like rent, bills, food, eating out, like all of that kind of thing. And then we obviously will need to sort of budget together and also figure out some savings goals together. So that is quite a big project, but it's probably one of those things that it's not going to take that much time, and it's going to be one of those things that once it's done, it's done. It's not going to be really an ongoing process, except for that on a monthly basis we should really check out our budgeting and saving to make sure that we're on track with all of what we want to do. The other thing is just ensuring that we still have quality time together now that we've moved in. And again, that's actually reasonably easy. The tasks is just to make a list of things to do together and plan some holidays, and to just ensure that on a weekly basis we are doing something nice together, the two of us. In terms of friends and family, the only real thing that I have is just to make more of a habit of seeing my friends. I only have a few really close friends. I just want to see them more regularly. I have been good with my family of doing a sort of weekly dinner, and that's just a habit that I want to track, that we are continuing to do that, and also doing things together on Sundays, not just having dinner and going home, but like doing some sort of activity. And then also making sure that I'm calling my dad and my stepmom once a week, and making plans with friends once a week. So that's something that I want to add into my Friday sort of admin time, is just making sure that I text a few of my friends to say, are you free to meet up sometime next week, and put some of that in the calendar. So I have monthly habits of putting any social activities in the calendar, and just planning time for Galway as an overall task for the next sort of 6 months, seeing when would be the times that I can get down to Galway to see my dad and Laurie. In terms of metrics, for the only thing that I really have is tracking the number of hours spent with friends and with family separately. And I know that is sort of like a crazy thing to do in a way, because it's like very impersonal, but for me, time is definitely a really important metric. And I think seeing how much time I'm spending with friends and family is an important one for me. In terms of fun and recreation, which is a bit more of a fun one, a lot of these are more so habits. There's not really a lot of projects and tasks. One project that I have is holidays. I want to look at my calendar for the next 6 to 9 months and put down times when I can go on holidays. So again, just laying the foundations for when I'll be able to go on holidays, and then seeing from there what I'm going to be ending up doing. It could be a trip abroad, it could be for a conference, or it could be heading down to Galway, but just to actually put the time in the calendar. I found that with last year, because there was not really any time to go abroad, it just wasn't really possible with all of the lockdowns, that I didn't put holidays in the calendar, and I found that I ended up oftentimes having to take time off out of necessity because I'd become unwell from overworking. So this is a really important thing for me to do, to just put that time off in the calendar straight away and not have that build up. Another project that I have is to do some auditions this year. So since I do run a speech and drama school, it is like definitely a hobby of mine to do performance, and I would like to do some auditions. I think it would be a good thing for me to do. So I have a project which will not take that long, but again, it's just things that you need to do. So taking a headshot, which I can do easily at home, creating a CV, show reel, and then making an account for auditions so that that's all ready to go, and then anything that's relevant I should just get contacted about. My weekly habits around my hobbies are doing fiction reading, taking a masterclass, and trying new recipes. Those are easy enough to say, but there's also monthly habits that need to get put into place with doing that. So sometimes I find if I haven't planned out what I'm going to read, when I come to the time that I'm meant to be doing the fiction reading, I'll sort of skip it because I actually haven't thought about the fact that I need to know what I'm going to be reading. So my monthly habit is to plan my to be read and to decide my masterclasses for the next month. So I'm going to be doing like a couple of masterclasses a month, and just doing 1 or 2 classes from each of those a week, because I think the masterclasses typically are around, I don't know, 3 hours in total. So if you could do 1 in a week, or you could do like 4 over a month, if that makes sense. Like you could do 1 class on Mondays and Thursdays, and so on and so forth. So that's what I'm probably going to do. And I want to do ones around writing and business and cooking for this month. In terms of metrics for fun and recreation, I want to track how many masterclasses I completed, so how many lessons, and how many books I read as well, and how many new recipes I tried. In terms of personal growth, my main 2 areas working on is going to be learning how to drive, and also working on my task procrastination habit. Driving, there's the project that comes first, which is actually getting all of the stuff ready before doing any lessons. So getting my insurance, my license, the car, all of that sorted, and then lessons will be a weekly habit. In terms of the procrastination task, I think I know what I need to do now, and so I don't have any projects, but I do have a weekly sort of habit around doing my weekly review, doing admin every day, and tracking the number of tasks I've completed and the number of tasks I have to do at any given time on a week-to-week basis. So at the end of the week, what's left, that's what I'm going to be looking at week to week. So the last area of life is health and well-being. So I do want to get braces sometime, possibly this year, possibly next year, but I do need to save up for that. So that's more my finances goal, but it is sort of there. I definitely want to start exercising a lot more. I really want to get into running and just being the kind of person that goes and does like a lot more fitnessy things. However, right now I have horrendous posture, and especially really bad foot posture. So when I walk, my 2 feet like turn inwards, like instead of walking on the outside of my feet, I walk on the inside. And it's really bad, and it's going to probably cause a lot of issues in the long term. I definitely do notice I have problems with my hips, which isn't great. I have really bad flexibility in general, and right now I'm just really not fit. So my whole health and well-being section for these 12 weeks needs to be focused on just fixing bad habits. I don't have any projects related to the sort of gym because I've already signed up for the gym and gotten all of that sorted. I should have mentioned for the braces, another thing is that the reason I need braces is because I have a big gap between my top and bottom teeth. And the reason for that is because my tongue pushes against the back of my bottom teeth. And so there are exercises I can do to correct that, but I just haven't been doing them. And so in order to be ready for my dental appointment in March, I need to have done those. So it's actually working out quite well in terms of the 12-week process there. So that's one thing that I need to do on a daily basis, as well as flossing, to make sure that my teeth are all good as well. My gym does have a free PT program, so doing a weekly PT session and doing resistance training on a sort of 3 or 4 days a week, and some steady state cardio a few days a week as well. Jack, who's my boyfriend, who's a PT, has given me a number of exercises to do to correct the different things that I'm doing wrong in terms of posture and foot placement. And so one of the things I'll need to do is regular sort of fitness assessments with him. In terms of metrics to check, it's kind of hard to say. I'm going to be doing regular fitness assessments, and then whatever the gym instructor does in terms of assessments, I'm just going to be tracking those. I suppose also to mention, with all of the habits, whether I've done those or not will also be metrics that I'll be checking for each of these. So I think this is a pretty ambitious plan to try and do all of this in a short period of time, but I am hopeful. I do think that these will all be really important for me to do before moving forward, and I'm going to try and do regular-ish updates with you to let you know how I'm getting on, and especially at the end I'll definitely do a 12-week recap, I guess, to see how far I got with each of these. I would love to hear if you have been doing a 12-week process, or even your annual or monthly goals. Let me know in the comments down below what your goals are. I would love to hear those. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks to all of my wonderful members, and I'll see you all in the next video.